In 1258, one of the greatest cities on earth stood on the edge of destruction. Baghdad was the capital of the Abbasid Caliphate, a 5-century-old Islamic empire. For generations, it had been the intellectual center of the known world. Its House of Wisdom held one of history's greatest libraries. Scholars there translated and preserved Greek, Persian, and Indian knowledge. Mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy all flourished within its walls. Baghdad's population may have exceeded 1 million people at its height. But by the 1250s, the Caliphate's political power had badly weakened. The Caliph, al-Mustasim, held religious authority but little real military strength. Meanwhile, a new threat was rising far to the east. The Mongol Empire, founded by Genghis Khan, now stretched across most of Asia. His grandson, Hulagu Khan, was ordered to expand Mongol power westward. Hulagu's campaign targeted the remaining Islamic strongholds of the Middle East. He had already crushed the feared assassins of Persia the year before. Baghdad, the symbolic heart of the Islamic world, was his next target. Hulagu sent messengers demanding the caliph's formal submission to Mongol rule. Al-Mustasim refused, believing Baghdad's reputation alone would protect it. Some accounts say he even dismissed the Mongol threat as insignificant. He believed the wider Muslim world would rise up to defend its capital. In reality, many neighboring rulers stayed silent, unwilling to challenge the Mongols. The caliph's own military had been neglected for years, poorly funded and small. Advisors reportedly warned him to prepare or negotiate. He ignored them. Hulagu's massive army began its march toward Baghdad in late 1257. It included Mongol horsemen, siege engineers, and allied forces from conquered lands. By January 1258, the army reached the outskirts of Baghdad. The city that had shaped centuries of human knowledge now faced annihilation. Hulagu Khan's army surrounded Baghdad from multiple directions within days. The Mongols had learned siege warfare from conquered Chinese and Persian engineers. They brought advanced catapults, trebuchets, and other powerful siege engines. Baghdad's ancient walls, though massive, had not been reinforced in generations. Al-Mustasim finally realized the danger, but his response came far too late. He sent a small force to attack the Mongol camp directly. The attempt failed disastrously, and Mongol engineers turned it to their advantage. They diverted a nearby canal, flooding the ground behind the retreating soldiers. Thousands of Baghdad's own troops drowned or were slaughtered in the flood. This single failed attack crippled the city's already weak military defenses. With his army shattered, the caliph had almost no way to fight back. Mongol forces then began a relentless bombardment of the city walls. Catapults hurled stones and fire into Baghdad day and night without pause. Panic spread through the city as the walls began to crack. Some of the caliph's advisors urged him to negotiate immediately. Others still believed Baghdad's sacred status made total destruction unthinkable. Al-Mustasim hesitated, sending mixed and contradictory messages to the Mongols. Hulagu interpreted this hesitation as further defiance, not weakness. By early February, Mongol forces breached sections of the outer walls. Mongol soldiers began pouring into the city's outer districts. Desperate defenders fought in narrow streets, but resistance quickly collapsed. Realizing the city was lost, the caliph finally sought terms of surrender. Hulagu accepted his surrender, but the true horror was only beginning. The city that had stood for 5 centuries was now completely at Mongol mercy. What followed would become one of history's most devastating cultural catastrophes. Despite the surrender, Hulagu ordered his army to sack the city completely. For 7 days, Mongol soldiers moved through Baghdad without mercy. Historical accounts describe massacres on a scale rarely seen before. Estimates of the dead range from tens of thousands to nearly 1 million. Modern historians still debate the exact number, but agree it was catastrophic. The city's famed House of Wisdom was looted and set ablaze. Countless irreplaceable manuscripts on science, medicine, and philosophy were destroyed forever. According to legend, so many books were thrown into the Tigris River. Witnesses claimed the water ran black with ink for days. Other accounts say the river ran red with blood soon after. Whether fully accurate or partly exaggerated, the imagery reflects a real catastrophe. Centuries of accumulated human knowledge vanished in a matter of days. Mosques, palaces, and hospitals across the city were burned or demolished. Survivors described a city transformed into an empty, smoking ruin. Baghdad's canals and irrigation systems, vital to the region, were also destroyed. This damage crippled agriculture in the region for generations afterward. The Mongols reportedly spared some skilled craftsmen and scholars from execution. These survivors were sometimes forcibly relocated to serve the Mongol Empire elsewhere. Foreign merchants and certain religious minorities were occasionally shown limited mercy. But for the vast majority of Baghdad's people, there was no escape. The city that had once symbolized human achievement now lay in ashes. Word of the destruction spread in horror across the Islamic world. Many considered it one of the darkest moments in Islamic history. Yet the story of Baghdad's fall was still not finished. One final act remained, the fate of the Caliph himself. Caliph al-Mustasim was captured alive after the city's fall. Mongol tradition held that royal blood should never touch the ground. According to legend, the Mongols wrapped him tightly in a carpet. He was then reportedly trampled to death by horses inside it. Historians still debate whether this exact method occurred as described. What is certain is that al-Mustasim was executed shortly after his capture. His death brought a definitive end to the Abbasid Caliphate's 5-century rule. For over 500 years, Baghdad had been the Caliphate's political and spiritual heart. That legacy ended abruptly in a matter of days in 1258. Some surviving members of the Abbasid family fled to Egypt afterward. A ceremonial caliphate continued there, but it held little real power. The true political and cultural authority of the old caliphate was gone forever. Historians often mark this event as the symbolic end of the Islamic Golden Age. Centers of learning shifted westward, toward cities like Cairo and later Cordoba. Baghdad itself took centuries to recover even part of its former glory. Some scholars argue the intellectual damage was never fully undone. The destruction of its libraries remains one of history's great cultural tragedies. Hulagu Khan went on to establish the Ilkhanate, a new Mongol state. It stretched across Persia and much of the former Islamic heartland. The Mongol Empire had now reached one of its furthest western points. Ironically, later Mongol rulers in the region eventually converted to Islam themselves. Over time, Mongol and Persian Islamic cultures gradually merged and blended. Today, historians view 1258 as one of history's true turning points. It marked the collision of two of the era's most powerful forces. The fall of Baghdad still stands as a lasting symbol of how swiftly even the greatest civilizations can collapse.